On today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between credit cards and debit cards. What made me want to do this topic, at least now, is a few things have happened over the last couple of weeks that have drawn my attention to the differences. So, to set the stage, my wife and I only use credit cards. We have never used debit cards. We use credit cards, although we pay off the balance every single month. We never pay interest on the debts because we pay them off every month. Many people use debit cards. My daughter, who's in college, many of my listeners know that my daughter Marissa is in college. And in high school and college, she's been using just a debit card. Recently, we got her a student credit card, so she will begin building credit. And so let's talk about a few kind of differences. A credit card is buy now, pay later. You could go to the store or buy something on the internet, get the product, get the service, and you don't have to pay until the bill comes later on. And if you pay the bill on time, there'll be no interest. If you cannot pay the bill off in time, then it converts sort of to an interest-bearing loan, and you would owe interest on that. In many cases, credit card interest rates are very high. It's not a good idea to carry credit card debt, although many Americans do for a variety of reasons, but it's a bad idea if you're trying to build wealth and make smart decisions with money. So credit card is buy now, pay later. The debit card is buy now, pay now. So your debit card is linked to a checking account, and when you use the debit card at a store or use it online, the money is immediately deducted from your checking account. So that's one thing I wanted to contrast. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that credit cards have more fees associated with them. Many cards have an annual fee, although some do not. They will also have fees if you pay late. So if you have a bill and the bill is due on, say, the 8th of the month and you're late, they will charge you a late fee as well as the interest. There often are other transaction fees, such as balance transfer fees, cash advance fees, and in some instances, foreign transaction fees. For a debit card, you can run into some fees also. Some debit cards will have a monthly fee, although that's increasingly rare. You could trigger fees, though, if you overdraft your checking account. If you buy something on your debit card and there's not enough money in the account, they could ding your account an overdraft fee in the same way that you could have a fee if you bounce a check. Sometimes there could be ATM fees, and similar to credit cards, if you're dealing in foreign transactions, there might be some fees there. One of the advantages to a credit card over a debit card is a credit card allows you to build credit. This is one of the things we discussed, my wife and I, with Marissa. As I said at the top of the show, she has used a debit card all along the way, and it's given her a chance to learn to use money and budget and get kind of some experience in handling money. Now that she's going to be a junior in college, we made the decision that we would get her a student credit card so that she can begin building credit. And the use of a debit card does not do anything towards building credit. It doesn't count in your credit score. So those are a few of the initial things I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to touch on next is liability for fraud. In today's environment, when you have so much theft and identity theft, it's important for all of us to be very careful with our money and our identity. And so one of the reasons why Joelle and I, my wife and I, have used credit cards over these many years and have avoided debit cards is because of the liability protection, the ease of that protection. So in my experience, if you find a fraudulent charge on your card and you call the issuer of the card, they will immediately credit your card for the amount of the fraudulent charge. So let's say somebody fraudulently charges $50, $100, $1,000. You notify the credit card issuer, they'll immediately credit that money back to you. So you're not out of pocket anything. Then they will do an investigation. They may have you sign paperwork. They could interview you. And as long as what you're telling them is the truth, you'll never see that cost again. And it does not interrupt your cash flow or cause any additional problems with your money and the paying of bills. So we had an example of this recently because my son, Dominic, plays lacrosse. And we had booked a hotel out of state for a lacrosse tournament that we were expected to go to in the summer. I'm recording this in the summer of 2020 during the great pandemic of 2020. And so the tournament was canceled. And the hotel was giving us a hard time about a refund. And they were giving lots of parents that we know on my son's lacrosse team a hard time about refunding the money. So what we did is we went to the credit card company and we said, we are entitled to a refund. They shouldn't have charged us to begin with, which is a complicating factor in the story. The point, though, is that the credit card issuer immediately credited the account and we're all good. Some of our friends who have children on the lacrosse team, they paid by credit card. So the money was sent to the hotel. Now, unlike Joelle and I, they have to try and go get that money back. We have our money already. Now, the hotel could petition the credit card issuer that it was a legitimate charge. And if they could prove that they are correct to the credit card issuer, then we might be liable for the money. It seems extraordinarily unlikely. In the other instance, though, with families that used a debit card, that money left their checking account, went to the hotel. Now they have to petition the hotel to try and get the money back. They have to convince the hotel that the hotel is not behaving correctly to have them refund the money. That's a much more difficult hill to climb compared to the use of the credit card. So that's been in my mind. What's also been in my mind is a very close friend and business associate recently had someone get access to their debit card or debit card number in some way, and they emptied out their bank account, causing a whole set of problems with checks bouncing, vendors potentially not being paid because checks could bounce, and money was cleaned out of their account. Now, to be fair, she has, and her husband has, full liability. The bank made good on it, but it took 7 days. So for 7 days, there was a little bit of uncertainty. I guess the time frame is 7 to 10 days. And it all worked out okay. The checks were honored. There were no bounce checks fees. They did get all of their money back. But it seems to me a bigger hassle because she had to deal with not having the money in her account for a few days and having to wait for that money to be returned, so that if during that time period she needed to take X number of dollars out for something, to take cash out, the cash wasn't there. It all worked out. If you look online, it does show that you do have full liability. I think from my experience and from what I've seen, it's a much bigger hassle when you have that happen. Even though the end of the story will be a positive one, the hassle factor is significantly more than the credit card. I'm reminded of another instance several years ago. This too was with a hotel. Joelle and I had booked, I think it was a bed and breakfast, and for whatever reason we canceled it well ahead of the deadline for being entitled to a refund. And we had emailed the proprietor the cancellation. They charged us. We saw it on the card. We called them up. Again, this is a mom and pop kind of bed and breakfast. You could probably picture the business model. Spoke with the wife. We previously had been dealing with the husband. And she said, well, we can't offer you the refund. We said, well, we had emailed him. And she said, yes, you emailed him, but that's not what he does. And it was never put into the system in time. So you're not entitled to a refund. Well, that didn't work for us, obviously. We sent the email and made a claim to the credit card. Our account was immediately credited and nothing more ever became of it. And instead of us trying to argue with them, having them issue a refund, we went right to the credit card. It's worked out really, really well for Joelle and I. It's a reason why I don't think I will ever use a debit card. Another reason that I am unlikely to use a debit card is that at times we have, in my opinion, large chunks of money, and I would not want to put large chunks of money at risk that somebody could come in and swipe that money out if they are able to gain access to my debit card or my debit card number. When my daughter was starting out and we wanted to teach her about money, we used a debit card because there were not a lot of dollars being involved. Fortunately, in my life today, at times there are decent amounts of money that are in our accounts or at least temporarily passing through our accounts, and I do not want that subject to being swiped out, even if I'm likely to get it back. Again, the hassle factor. So just a couple of other quick notes. The transactions you can make on a debit card are also more limited than what you could do on a credit card. Typically, they're limited to new purchases and cash withdrawals at ATMs. You cannot use balance transfers. So in credit cards, oftentimes you could transfer debts from another card or another loan, transfer them onto a credit card. Credit cards often have nice, attractive rates, at least teaser rates for balance transfers. So for example, sometimes they'll offer 0% for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, even 24 months. There's usually a balance transfer fee, but the point of this item is that you cannot do that in debit cards. I don't highly recommend you do balance transfers anyway, although it is a good technique if you have debts and you're trying to reduce your interest rate costs. Balance transfers can work into the mix successfully. Another thing is that fewer debit cards earn rewards. Credit cards have become increasingly popular for a lot of reasons over these many, many years. One of them is the rewards programs that they offer. Joelle and I use a card that's tied in with Marriott because we build up lots of Marriott points that helps when we travel for leisure and or business. Other people do cash back rewards or frequent flyer miles. It could be a card through General Motors where you build up points that you could use when you buy a car. There's all different shapes and sizes. Debit cards don't typically include rewards. So I also like using a credit card because of all the reasons I've already stated, plus the ability to build points with Marriott. In our instance, it's Marriott, is also a great feature. It's not the end-all, the be-all. It's not the driving force, but it is pretty important. So with what happened with my friend, with her debit card getting violated and her money swiped, to my daughter experimenting with her first use of credit card. By the way, with my daughter Marissa, we've counseled her. She's just going to use it casually, use it once or twice a month, pay it off. We do not want her to accumulate credit card debt. That would not be teaching her good lessons about money. Hopefully she follows our advice and counsel. Her card has a small limit. It's a big limit probably for her and her income and budget being a student, but it's still a rather low amount. She can't get herself in too much trouble, but it's another step in her learning about money, managing money, budgeting, being disciplined, and having exposure to what's out there. And when she graduates from college, she'll have a little bit of a credit score, which I don't think is a bad thing. So thanks for hearing me out on some of the differences between credit cards and debit cards. Let me finish up by saying that even though I'm in favor of using credit cards, I'm in favor of responsible usage of credit cards. Carrying regular credit card debt, balances that roll over month to month, where you're being charged high interest, is a bad idea. It should be a priority to pay those debts off, and it also should be a priority not to live a lifestyle so much higher than your income allows that you find yourself in credit card debt. You're not going to get ahead and you're not going to build wealth by having credit card debt. So thanks very much. I will be back with you on the next episode of the Simply Financial podcast very soon. In the meantime, go to elliottwealth.com, find out more information about me and the team, how we help our clients win with money. Sign up for a complimentary consultation so that we can talk about how we can help you make smart decisions with your money. And lastly, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. That would be a huge help to me. Thanks, and have a great day.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Osaic Wealth, Inc., and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided at these websites. Nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to or your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management Services, LLC, not affiliated with Osaic Wealth, Inc.